Hey folks, it's Nate. It's time I got back to the drawing board, and today we're taking a look at Earthworm Jim by Doug TenNapel. This is book one, Launch the Cow. The Kickstarter, or I should say the Indiegogo for this, recently fulfilled. I'm going to give this the usual drawing board treatment. We're going to talk about the product, what I thought of it, what I thought of the value, and ultimately whether I would recommend people get it or not, and some things that Doug might be able to do to improve on his next project. So let's get started. First off, form factor. Form factor for this is really great. If you've seen Bigfoot Bill, you know that already. This is much the same printing wise, except instead of a leather binding, of course, we have a full art binding. It's got a very nice feel to it. It feels like well, if you've ever had a really good hardbound book with the cover taken off, this is exactly what it feels like. It's got gold leaf stamping. It's got great paper quality. It's got great print quality. Yeah, it's a very good book. And of course, I also have the making of. I did not get one of these for Bigfoot Bill, and that may be my loss. But this is also a very good quality book. Again, it has that nice full art cover. It has silver binding. I don't know if you can really see that. And again, great paper quality. It has this fold out timeline of Earthworm Jim and various members of the creative team, what they were doing as time went by. Mostly it's Doug, but I believe there are occasional references to other Earthworm Jim media that was in production. It has some enlarged art frames from the comic. It has facts about the characters. All in all, it's very nice. It has this raised embossing with a nice glossy finish on it. Both covers do, actually. That's very nice. All in all, 10 out of 10. It also comes with, what did I do with that? Sorry about that. So it also comes with this Bigfoot Bill short comic that is produced like a floppy. It has a really nice, almost magazine quality cover to it. It's very glossy, very slick. That's very nice. And it has about, what is it, 24 pages? Yeah, 24 pages of the story in it. This is an intriguing teaser for an upcoming campaign, so good job there, Doug. I found this very interesting. It was fun to look through. You don't get a big feel for where things are going. It really just sets up all of the characters, which I think is good for what this is intended to do. So that's my review of that real quick. I guess that's the whole look at that. It has trading card sets. I didn't get a full set of trading cards. I just got the 3 packs that came with all the stretch goals. These are very good print quality, so nothing to complain about there. It came with a poster. I'm not going to try and unfold this because you really won't be able to see most of it, but on one side it has Jim and Princess What's-Her-Name, as you can see, sort of. On the other side it just has cows on it, because cows, I guess. It has this weird paper crafty thing. If I can... So we have this. It kind of lets you build a paper doll Earthworm Jim. If you're into that, or if you have kids or nieces or nephews who are into that, I'm sure it'll be worth their time. And kind of as a bonus add-on, I got a couple of what look like just art frames from somewhere in the production. This appears to be the cover of the making of, and this one is just a weird Jim shot, as is this one. If you're familiar with how Doug fulfills campaigns, he tends to just stick this kind of stuff in with random packages as a bonus. I didn't get one of these for Bigfoot Bill. It's kind of neat to get one in this set. So that was nice. That's a nice plus, and they're all on great quality paper. So form factor, nothing to complain about. Like, I literally cannot think of anything. Even the fold out is great. It's good quality. It's not going to come out. I mean, just look at this. Whoa, what a nice book. Okay, so let's talk about the story and the art in the actual comic. Now, I can't... This is a really long... the story section here is really long. I believe it's, 160 pages. So I'm not going to try and summarize the whole story. Suffice it to say, it introduces Jim. It introduces his primary antagonist, the evil Queen Slugforbutt. It introduces Jim's supporting cast, which is Peter Puppy, which you see here in both of his forms. Princess What's-Her-Name here in the stripy tights. Jim's mom and dad, which are the cows in question. Yes, don't ask. And it introduces two of the supporting villains, three actually. Psychro, Professor Monkey Forehead, and Evil the Cat. Psychro is the only one that plays a major part in the story. He's the primary antagonist, as it were, of this story. Evil, the Queen, and Professor Monkey Forehead are all supporting antagonists in this story. And it's fun. It's a good story. It's fun. It's adventurous. It has a lot of that kind of weird, bizarre humor that Doug does really well in all of his work. It has a good through line. It shows Jim's development from just a humble earthworm to a hero. It sets up some of the upcoming antagonists pretty well. It has flaws, of course. It's not a perfect story. Two of my biggest gripes are this character here. This is kind of the blue fairy, if you will, a la Pinocchio. You know, I bet you didn't realize that Earthworm Jim was a Pinocchio stand, especially because he has no nose. But that's who this is, basically. She adds some kind of magic dust to the super suit, which allows Jim to transform from an earthworm into a living, thinking being. Now, if I remember the video game right, Jim was actually enhanced by the suit itself, according to the little instruction booklet that came along with it. Obviously, we've retconned that, or Doug has retconned that in this version of the story, and that's fine. It works pretty well. Here's Farmer Jim, from whom Jim takes his name. He's also a member of the supporting cast. And the Blue Fairy is, she's just sort of there. She pops up. She does this magic thing. She's looking for a hero, and she thinks that the suit is someone who has come to save her. I don't understand why she's here or why she's looking out for a hero. I don't get it. And she's just there and she's gone. And it feels kind of like a plot contrivance to make it a little more believable that this earthworm can suddenly become a thinking being when it's combined with the suit. I suppose it's not bad, but it just feels very out of left field. The other thing is the suit itself is kind of a MacGuffin. I believe, and my memories of the game are kind of sketchy. I don't think I've played it in at least 20 years, probably longer than that. So I don't remember exactly whether the suit was always something they were going after, or if the villains in the game were just fighting Jim because he wanted to get the princess back. I don't remember. But I do know that they've kind of made the suit the center of everything. It has, some kind of special particle like a Higgs boson or something that makes it super important. And that, kind of explains why it can do what it can do. But I'm not a huge fan of that, I guess. I guess I'll have to see where it goes. It bugged me a little bit at first, I'll say that. So the art, as you can see, the art is pretty good. It's definitely cartoony. It's not, your American comic book superhero or Archie style. This is very much a Saturday morning cartoon, for lack of a better term, which is appropriate, as Jim was a Saturday morning cartoon at one point. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be a matter of taste. For what it is very well done. Again, it's just a question of whether that's what you really want. I like it. I like the contrast between some of these less human characters and the very human Princess What's-Her-Name, and I think it just works very well. I would love to see, just more of this art in general, not just from Doug, but from other creators, because I think it really has a lot to offer. So that's the comic itself. Now the making of. The making of is, I can't say I've read this solidly cover to cover. But I've read enough to have an idea of what each section is. So there's a section where Doug reminisces about creating Earthworm Jim. There are interviews with each of the other members of the team at Shiny Games. There's looks at each of the characters in the game. There's this little introductory comic, which again, as I recall, was in the game as it was originally released. And finally, there's some talk about how the graphic novel is put together, the campaign, the writing, designing pages, so on and so forth. Longtime Jim fans like myself will be happy to know that Jim's blaster still goes plasma. So there's that. Pencils, inks, all the nuts and bolts are there, although he doesn't get into a whole lot of depth with them, which is understandable because in this format you really can't. The writing is good. Mark Lorenzen seems to have done a lot of the lifting on this, and it's good. If this kind of thing is your thing, I mean, the writing is right where you want it to be. So, overall, how is the product? The product, I think, is going to vary a little bit depending on your tastes. Obviously, if you're a fan of Earthworm Jim, this product delivers 250%. It's great. Has not all, but most of the characters you remember and love from the games. It has an actual story to it. It's got all the zany humor you remember. It's just a fun read. If you're not a fan of the games, but you like, a bit of slapstick humor, you like fun adventure stories, if you like, bumbling protagonists, especially with a heart of gold, that kind of thing, this is definitely right up your alley. If you like really detailed, heroic proportioned art, if you like serious, hard-hitting storytelling, this is probably not going to be quite up your alley. There's a really good story here. The story has a lot of heart, but there is a lot of zaniness packed on top of that, which is fine. But if that's not your cup of tea, maybe this isn't your story. And if Doug's art isn't to your taste, if you don't like that slightly more cartoony approach to art, well, again, it's a great quality book, but what it gives you in quality may not necessarily be what you want. As for the making of, this is more of a mixed bag. If you're a huge fan of Earthworm Jim, this brings quality in spades. You get to hear about the creation process, the reminiscences of the team that worked on it, all kinds of stuff. If you're not a fan of Earthworm Jim, but you are a fan of game making, there's definitely some information to take away here, especially if you're into the making of platformers or sprite animation or something like that. Not so much the modern AAA game, which Jim doesn't bear a whole lot of resemblance to. If you're a fan of Doug's work or the Shiny Studio or any of the creators in there, there's definitely value here as well. If you're not interested in game design or Earthworm Jim or any of the people who worked on it, there's very little for you in here, to be perfectly honest. Like, you're not going to learn a whole lot about making a comic or how to run a crowdfunding campaign or any of that other stuff. This is a book that's primarily for the people who really love Earthworm Jim, and that's fine. I really loved Earthworm Jim when I was a kid, and I'm glad to have this book. But if that's not you, this is probably not your book. I have no qualms saying that at all. So value proposition. Value proposition, like I said, it varies. If you want this story, the book itself is phenomenal value. You get the book, you get the comic. So I think it really works out. If you were not a fan of Earthworm Jim beforehand, well, it still has value if you like the kind of story it tells. And I think, all the promotion for it made that very clear. So I think this is a great value for what was offered. And it's always important to keep in mind, for what was offered. You're not going to find this kind of production quality anywhere else. Is there anything I would offer to Doug as something he might improve on? And, I honestly, I cannot think of anything. Other than the small story critiques I had, what am I supposed to say? It's It's one of the best designed, best built, best told stories I've seen in comics in a long time. So, yeah, it's good. It's good. I should probably tell Doug he's crap and he should improve somehow, but I can't think of how to do it right now. Get off Twitter. Get off Twitter, Doug. You were much more entertaining when you were off Twitter. That's my suggestion, Doug 10 April. And for the rest of you, well, there's a like button and subscribe button down below you can use as you see fit. If you'd like to recommend how I could improve these, well, you can leave that in the comment box down below. I'll read it and get back to you later. See ya.